wasn't flying. Yeah, it wasn't. She we booked it like a year before. Got all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, we're going there. Good.
Got some rain today. It's getting a little dry, wasn't it?
Floating down on that's okay.
We went
Run, run,
Worth it.
run. We got 250 acres of corn planted.
You already have it, that haven't. How many inches of rain do we get, or what we get in here?
Across the bridge. I just saw Cindy not jogging in town. Felt like extra. Waving at her and almost stopped. So she probably had to go back on that. We just got under the 3x.
In, like, not this weekend, but the next weekend?
Yeah, always at Bay Shore.
Okay.
Yeah, if you pay the little bit of membership fee, you're guaranteed into that one, and it's a nice run. It's a really nice run. So. Yeah, that's an annual for her.
Hi, Richard.
Hello, Richard. Good evening.
There are no nice runs, Patty.
Oh, unless you're running from a bear or something.
Yes.
Yeah.
No nice rounds.
I just had to climb 2 mountains in Greece.
Hi, Travis.
Howdy.
Alright.
Sorry, Alex.
Catherine, the attorney, was not able to make it, so we had to cancel the special meeting. Yep. Well, good evening, everybody. It's 6 o'clock, so we'll go ahead and get our meeting started. I call this meeting to order, and we start by the Pledge of Allegiance. So we have the flag here. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was just remarking about a month ago, it was 1 month ago, that we had all the flooding, so we didn't have very many people here. And hopefully everybody's dried out and has plans in place for remedy. So, we have a new, not new to us, but planning consultant from Beckett and Rader, Ken Lane, is going to be our planning consultant. Cindy's here, our recording secretary, Richard Frisbee, board trustee, Travis Chellis, I'm Patty House, currently chair, and Tyler Strange. And we're missing Dave tonight. Dave's not able to be here. Dave left. All right, so welcome everybody. And with that, I would ask for a motion to approve the minutes Cindy, I don't know if it's a correction or an amendment. We said that there was going to be a public hearing for two-family dwelling, but that did not transpire, so I don't know if that's a correction or an amendment or how we handle that.
I also don't know.
Because you recorded correctly what was to take place, so maybe just say minutes amended. Do you know?
Well, once the minute, if they're approved, you just made a note that the meeting didn't happen. Cause that was the correct notes.
Yeah, I think I would have to leave the minutes as they are, but then maybe say something in these minutes for.
In these minutes,
that we're
yeah.
not gonna have a public hearing.
Okay, does that sound right, Ken?
Yeah, it was a miscommunication from last meeting.
Okay. All right, so with that, I would take a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Tyler,
Support.
support by Richard, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried.
In this one, we're gonna, public hearing for,
Two-family, yes, two-family dwelling.
not to be held tonight.
Mhm.
Okay. All right.
I didn't receive any correspondence, did you, Cindy?
No, I did not.
Okay. Okay, with that, then we would take public comment. You have 3 minutes and we listen. I'd like to know what's on your mind. Anybody?
Just curious, with the legislation that's out there
Mhm.
to take control away from local communities on zoning and what, and how they're developed, has the township drafted any kind of response to send to the legislator as a stand as a township? I know some of the municipalities have.
We're part of the Michigan Township Association, and so we get from them correspondence, and we can add our name to things that are drafted to the legislature if we're in support of, or let them know how we feel about that. So, yeah, there's a vote Thursday, and it would be very impactful for all of us if it passes.
Yeah.
So,
1,500 square foot lots.
What was your name, sir?
Dave Daniels?
Dave Daniels. Okay, thank you.
any other public comment? Mark?
I just wanted to comment a little bit on, what the attorney had to say last month.
Can I stop you? Could you hear her okay? Because,
No.
yeah, okay,
No, I had a very hard time,
okay.
yeah. Um. I had it up here. Okay, she talked about the different, studies that might be required for gravel, for a sand and gravel operation. One of them was, hydrogeological, and, I would just say that, first of all, that if a developer, impacts the water in any way that dries up somebody's well, it's standard case law already through the courts that, they have to make it right. It's either drill them a new well, or, in fact, we just had that about 2 years ago in East Jordan, where, the gas company had been doing some work and they impacted a well for a landowner. And they contacted them and they went in without any question to drill them a new well. In fact, they drilled them 4 wells and they didn't work out. Fifth one finally did. So, it's just standard, case law already. And so these studies that she's advocating as possibilities, are not necessary because the steps and the procedures are in place, the legal things are in place to take care of that. If there's a problem. And then also the traffic impact study. Roads are made for cars and trucks, and if trucks go on them, they're harder on roads than cars, but they pay a whole lot more road tax than cars do. Their registrations are a lot higher, their fuel tax, they burn a lot more fuel, so actually, if you look at the whole picture, there's more contribution for, road repair and road maintenance through trucks than just cars. Noise and vibration, that's, set by, a zoning ordinance. Air quality and dust control is already set by, AGL and any erosion is already set by, county erosion department. It's all in place. To do these extra studies is just redundant and unnecessary. And you gotta think of the unintended consequences. The more the township requires of research or studies and costs, the less likely it is that there's going to be development of the resources that we have. And for instance, right now, someone told me that gravel was about $20 a yard, and if somebody has to come in and do a bunch of studies, and there's no large company that's going to just absorb that. They're going to carry it through the price of their gravel afterwards. So if they're going to do all this in order to get gravel, the price will be $25. And if they don't, if you take the opposite, and that the smaller local guys can go get some gravel, the price of gravel is going to be $15. So the cost of what we require in the zoning ordinance is impacting our whole community, and we need to do what's best for the citizens, not just a few. The other thing is that we were asked by the supervisor to give the planning commission some ideas of what we thought we'd like to see in a soil extraction ordinance. So I did put some of that together and that to you, just for your
Thank you.
reference.
Oh.
Give you one for Dave, or?
I would take one for Dave. I have to see him about a signature.
Okay. You guys want one too?
Please. Thank you.
So that's all I have.
Okay, thanks, Mark. Anybody else? All right. With that concludes public comments, and we're gonna go into our public hearings. So at this time, I would take a motion to open our public hearing.
So moved.
Moved by Richard, and I'll support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Right, motion carried, so it's 6:10. Little formality here. This is a public hearing in order to receive public comment on ADUs. We're moving ADUs from a special use to a permitted use, and so that's what the public hearing is about. We're here to listen to what you have to say. Go ahead and raise your hand. We'll call on you. If you share your name and township of residence, keep your remarks to 3 minutes. You'll have a time at the end of the meeting to discuss anything more that you want to talk about, and public comment at the end. And that's the big stuff. So I'm going to read this ordinance that we have. The Banks Township Planning Commission will hold a hearing tonight, 6 p.m., to consider a proposed zoning ordinance text amendment to 6.01.2 permitted uses in agriculture. Section 6.01 uses subject to special approval in agricultural district. Section 6.02.2 permitted uses in conservation recreation district. Section 6.02.3 uses subject to special approval in the conservation recreation district. Section 6.03.2 permitted uses in low density residential district. Section 6.03.3 uses subject to special approval in low density residential. Section 6.05.2 permitted uses in mobile home park district. Section 6.05.3 Uses subject to special approval of the mobile home park district. Section 6.06.2 permitted uses in the village district, that's, Village of Atwood. And section 6.06.3 uses subject to special approval in the village district of Banks Township ordinance regarding the change in approval status of accessory dwelling uses from uses subject to special approval to permitted use in the above referenced zoning districts. The public is invited to attend and provide written comments. That's the gist of that. So at this time, if there's anyone that has comments in favor of ADUs, we would listen to those. Or comments opposed,
How about if you have comments for neither?
as long as it relates to, yeah, sure.
Okay. Don Miles. Actually, I have two questions. The first is, by moving this to permitted use, are we taking away all the various specifications of what an ADU is, or are we moving that to a different section of the ordinance? That's question number one. And the other question that just came up as you were reading, why are we permitting it in the mobile home district? That doesn't seem to be on par with what I might think we would want to do with ADUs. So those are the two questions.
Okay. Well, I can answer that. So anywhere there's a single dwelling, it would be an accessory to that dwelling. So it's in 5 of the, we have 7 districts.
Right.
And the 2 that there's no single family dwellings are excluded from this. So if there's a mobile home, technically, they can have an accessory dwelling unit there. And then, yes, all the uses outlined for each district remain. We're just adding the ability for a person to add an accessory dwelling unit there. So all of that in the zoning ordinance that's spelled out, I think it's page
Well,
85.
for ADUs, there's very specific specifications.
Correct.
What an ADU is.
Mhm. Yeah,
And my
800,
question was, is that still gonna be in the ordinance?
yes. So it's 800 square feet for 1 bedroom, 1,000 square feet for 2, all of that.
I
None of
got
that-
my heart.
okay. Yeah, none of that changes.
Okay,
Mhm.
that was my question.
Any other comments before we close the public hearing? All right, with that, I would take a motion to close the public hearing.
Motion.
Motion by Travis,
I'll support.
support by Tyler. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carried. All right, guys, this is just following through with the language that Ruben put together for us. As Dave had mentioned, there is, legislation on Thursday, the Michigan, let me see, I wanna get this right. The, House Government Operations Committee is voting Thursday on 3 bills that mandates duplexes, ADUs, and mobile homes anywhere in residential. So we're gonna keep going with this, because we have no idea how they'll vote. But just know that that's out there. Yeah, any further discussion on this before we vote? Any further comments?
I don't know.
Okay. With that, I would make a motion. Following a public hearing held May 12, 2026, I move to recommend approval of the Banks Township Board of Trustees an amendment to the Banks Township zoning ordinance to allow accessory dwelling units to be permitted in uses agriculture, conservation, recreation, low-density residential, mobile home park, and village district. Is there a second for that?
Support.
Support by Richard. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Cindy, I have that here for you. Thank you. Okay, moving on to standing reports. Dave isn't here tonight, and he commented, the only comment he had for me by email was that they are working on their bylaws currently right now for the zoning board of appeals. Curtis touched base with me yesterday, and he has nothing outstanding to report at this time. He's not able to be here tonight, but, nothing out of the ordinary, I'll say it that way, for going on to him for the zoning administrator. So that brings us to Richard.
I have a few things,
Okay,
most of which you're probably aware of, and I'm looking forward to this maybe being my last verbal report like this, because Patty and I have already agreed that with her especially making sure that all of us get the minutes from the township board meetings, it seems kind of unnecessary because there's more detail in those than what I'm even providing here, so that's our intention. She's gonna make that formal, I think, in this meeting. But anyway, this is I'll give a report on our last meeting. We're continuing to work on things in the cemetery. Some work was recently done in the Ellsworth Cemetery. You'll see that if you're at the memorial service. We also approved $7,000 for headstone cleaning and restoration in that Ellsworth Cemetery. We continue to working on roads, trying to figure out the right place to spend this year's road budget. Earlier, just last week, there was a meeting held in Bel Air by the Antrim County Road Commission on road funding. And there are some changes in the works at the state level that hopefully when it all gets sorted out and the money starts flowing like it's supposed to, will result in more money ultimately coming back to the townships through the county. But that's not happening just yet. So we continue to work on quotes for C-48. In fact, we just got those. I got them in my email from Alex just before this meeting. So I'm sure we'll be looking at that and hopefully being able to move soon. And those quotes are for fixing C-48 out there past Dollar General out to the county line. We approved a new township hall rental policy and rates. We approved new maintenance and cleaning people. They're accepted their RFPs for the town hall for both of those positions, maintenance and cleaning. Setback ordinance amendment, per the planning commission's request, the township board has sent specific information, specific recommendations back to us that I think are on here for today. And then master plan, board is asking the planning commission to reopen the discussion to include comments that were received after the 63-day period closed in the last round. And then the last item we talked about was the voter postcards from the Antrim County Clerk. We approved asking the county clerk not to interfere with our township clerk in maintaining the qualified voter file. And we also decided to bill the county for her time in dealing with this issue. That's it.
okay, thank you.
Any questions?
No, any questions for Richard, anybody? We're gonna have, there's nothing in our bylaws that say we have to have standing reports. So we'll just, and now our meetings are all recorded, so, I think that covers it, and then you'll of course be available for questions.
Sure.
The zoning board of, the ZBA, their, meetings aren't recorded, so I'll still have Dave give a verbal report.
Okay.
Is the board doing anything to push the county on these roads? Or is there any recourse to push them harder on these roads?
I think,
You know, like for me, if I'm hauling any equipment, I've got to loop around Atwood Road. Cause like today, I tried going slow, I was doing 30 miles an hour, and my straps on the stuff I was hauling, I had to stop and adjust them twice, cause the road's so bad. So I mean, is the board doing anything to, or is there any recourse we have to say to the county, hey, you're responsible for these roads? I mean, Essex is, you know, now there's a big hole in it now.
right.
You know, I've got a F-350, it's a springle heavy, but there's parts of it, if I do over 40 miles an hour, I'm chattering off the road, unless I'm loaded.
Right.
I know the county when I was working for the county, they got sued on an accident on Manslaughter Road for failing to maintain, and, you know, they paid out on that. I mean, that's right, the roads get bad enough there on Essex, especially by Church Road. Somebody not from the area is gonna come over there and hit that hole, and some kid at night not gonna be paying attention, and when they go through that guardrail into the swamp, it's a little too late to fix the road.
Well, I think to answer your question, I think yes. I think we're doing all we can. At least two of us, Marv and I, were both at that roads meeting where we had chances to talk with the new, Alan Musel is the new head of whatever, taking the place in the head of the road commission. And also a couple board members were there, so we talked with them. Essex Road was specifically talked about. We continue to have hopes that will see some significant state funding. And I think we're gonna give that at least another year because everybody recognizes it's a $3 million project. And to start putting our $250,000 to $300,000 a year toward that seems like we're gonna at least give it another year before we start piecemealing that road, because we have a reasonable hope that there's been a lot of work done already with the state representatives and senator, and we don't think is closed on that. We're hoping that it'll be a state budget item to take care of that road. And they just tell us over and over, I mean, they present their case pretty compellingly that they don't have enough money either. Their revenue's down. They don't have enough. They've got, what do you remember the number? 15 million, many millions of dollars worth of road projects. I've got a list in here somewhere, actually. They just got a huge backlog of roads, and Essex is on that list. And they prioritize them, and they're doing the best they can.
If I could, in 1940, 20% of our state budget went to roads. This year, 5% goes to roads. That's why we don't have roads fixed. Our legislators and our governor and our senators don't prioritize roads over all their other social and otherwise programs. We have to contact our legislators and say roads are more important than whatever, X, Y, or Z. We gotta have 10 to 20% of our state budget go to roads, or they're gonna keep going to pot. There's nothing that the township can do. The tax base is so small, and when we get 2 mills, and it's $250,000, it doesn't touch Essex Road. Doesn't even do 10% of it. So it's gotta come from the state, and that's why we got representatives and senators.
Yeah, and I'll just give credit to Marv. He's been working on this for at least a couple of years that I'm aware of, actively with reps and senators, and still have some hope.
Is that your question, Travis?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Ken, would you mind giving a little history that you've had with Banks Township and a little brief professional bio?
Sure.
This is Ken's first meeting back.
Good evening, everyone. Ken Lane, back at the Narrator. I served as the planning consultant of Banks Township from September of 2022 to roughly June of 2025. I have worked as a planning and zoning professional for 24 years, always representing municipalities, towns, cities, villages, sometimes in-house working for a community, sometimes working for a private company like I do now with Beckett and Rader. So I'm happy to be back. Appreciate the opportunity to be back and serve as the consultant again for Banks Township. And that's a little background on me. The zoning ordinance amendment that you just recommended approval, the next step will be to send it to the County Planning Commission, and I'll do that tomorrow. They then have 30 days to comment, and then after that period, it'll go to the Township Board. It sounds like everyone's aware of that package of bills that's going to be considered on Thursday. We had a write-up on it in the planning report last month, I think very concerning that, that's going to strip away local control in terms of zoning. However, and I'll say this, and I hope I'm not jinxing it, I was at another township today for office hours, and the supervisor called the state rep for that community to say, hey, I hope you're heading to Lansing to oppose this package of bills, and he was, and the state rep said he did not think it was going to pass. A lot of legislators who initially signed on to it are now removing their names from it because it's so unpopular. So, you don't have a crystal ball, and I don't know if that means anything, but at least one state rep seemed to think that it wasn't gonna get on a committee on Thursday. So, fingers crossed on that. The other thing in the monthly report this month is the data center, topic. And I don't know if you've discussed that here or if it's of any concern, but more and more northern communities, northern Michigan communities are getting approached about putting a data center in their communities. They're basically used, it's a big building with a lot of computers that run 24/7, designed to generate capacity for AI and, you know, other computer items. They use a ton of water, they use a ton of electricity, and they're also extremely loud. I saw a news report, community near Dowagiac, Michigan, which is near Kalamazoo. They interview the people that live like maybe 100 yards from that facility, and it's like a constant hissing, and it's 24/7, people said. I mean, even with your windows closed, you know, you wouldn't be able to avoid that sound. So, if the planning commission's interested, you know, other communities that I work with, they're starting to take a look at maybe adding some data center regulations within their zoning ordinance, just to be proactive. So I'd be happy to do that if that's something the planning commission is interested in.
Okay. Thank you, Ken.
Mhm.
So, but we could have what they call a workable ordinance, but that still doesn't, it can't be any stricter than what the state permits, correct?
Well, the state doesn't have any regulations for data centers currently. They
No.
do for big wind, solar, and battery energy storage facilities, but these data centers are a new, they're tied to the AI essentially. So in the report, some state reps wanted the state to impose a moratorium and do a study and maybe come up with some legislation. But the governor in the report was quoted as saying that would be dead on arrival at her desk. So, you know, I think local communities need to be proactive if it's concerned, and, you know, Banks Township has a lot of open space. So it might be something that would be heading this way. Right now, they're really, really large, they need a lot of power, but with everything, they tend to get smaller as time goes on, and, you know, the concern that I have at least is, you know, 5 years from now, maybe they will have improved how they operate, and then it will make places like Bank Township and other northern Michigan communities more of a target for these facilities. So it's a good thing to start looking at.
Okay, thank you, I do appreciate that. One of the trainings I went to, they said primarily they are only going to be near high capacity power,
Yeah.
which we don't have anywhere around us, so I wasn't, kind of was relieved to hear that.
Yeah.
But like you point out, they do get smaller and smaller.
Yeah, they find better ways to do it, and, you know, it's like a phone, you know, back 20 years ago, they were like this, now they're tiny.
Yeah,
I think some actually are set up to generate their own power.
right, I have heard that as well. So hopefully Elon Musk comes through and they put him on the moon and set up here on Earth, but it'd be good to maybe think about that, hey?
Okay, I can bring some stuff for next month.
Okay. All right, under unfinished business, Ken sent us the language for two-family draft amendment in agriculture. So this is last opportunity to have eyes on before I would make a motion to call for a public hearing on that June 9th. It excludes conservation recreation because we do not want to create an overlay district. We had this carved out waterfront exception, and we're not allowed to do that. It's called the violation of uniformity of use. And so we decided, let's let that go and we'll just have it in ag. So, anything more to discuss before I would call for a public hearing for that?
I guess I mean, on your notes here, Ruben wanted us to have eyes on the exact language. You know, we're just kicking it down the road one more time instead of just being done with it. I guess I think we should just continue on like we were going to and have it done tonight.
Yeah, but we didn't put the notice up for a public hearing for tonight. It has to be a public notice.
Right,
I hear what you're saying, but, we can't.
I thought that was the plan, is to have them both, so we could have them both done.
Yep, it was. But that's not where we are.
Okay.
Anything else?
I don't have anything further, no.
Okay, so I would make a motion to call for a public hearing for two-family draft amendment in agriculture district, and that would be June 9th, 2026. Is there support for that motion?
I'll support.
Support by Travis, all in favor signify by saying aye.
He's Tyler.
Excuse me.
You're fine.
We're gonna get you a name tag.
Yeah, please do.
It's right here on my screen. Sorry, Tyler. I've known Tyler
You've been
since he
dating?
was. Oh, so sorry.
Don't be.
So all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, moving on to the master plan. If you attended the meeting or watched it online, the discussion on master plan took place at the 4-hour, 19-minute, and 50-minute mark, a long meeting. And they voted 4-1 to open it back up to consider comments that were received during the 63-day period. Somehow there was a notion that Alex's comments and Julie's comments were similar in nature. That is not the case at all. All the comments that we received that were applicable to the master plan were incorporated in the master plan. Julie submitted a 13-page document, and the top two comments of hers, you all have the compiled list of comments. Hers were incorporated, no swimming pool ordinance, and no septic tank inspection. The rest were zoning in nature. And when you propose zoning, you have to go through the public process. What's the public process? Someone proposes a zoning ordinance, you look at the master plan, existing conditions, you deliberate, call for a public hearing, vote, pass it on to the board. So all of Julie's comments were of that nature. She had some great ideas, good suggestions, but you can't skip the public process. We can't insert the things that she asked us, or things that she put forth into a master plan. So, I asked you all to review the compiled comments that we had, and I am prepared to make a motion that it was a request to open public comment it was a request to open up the master plan for further discussion on comments received during the 63-day period. So, with that, I'll make a motion and then we can discuss it further. I make a motion to deny the board's request to open up the master plan for further discussion on comments received during the 63-day review period because all comments received specific to the master plan were considered and integrated where possible.
What was the board's take on kicking it back to us?
I thought, as I reported a few minutes ago, that the board was asking us to consider comments that were received after.
I have the minutes, and that's not the case. Richard.
Okay, I don't know how I got that. I thought I got that out of our minutes. So, okay, I stand corrected then. If do you have? Can you reference the minutes? I don't have them. That I'd have to look on my
I'm
phone.
pulling them up right now.
Because there were, you referenced Julie and Alex's comments. There were some other comments that you said last meeting, Patty, couldn't be considered because they were received after the comment period had closed. And so I thought it was the intent of the board. I thought that's what we had decided at our board meeting, that we wanted to open it back up to get those comments.
The motion was to open the master plan back up to include comments received before the 63-day time ended.
So meaning after the 63.
Before, during that review
The specific
period,
would
not
be
after.
correct.
And it was a request. if you listen to the way Marv worded it, you can all watch, it was a request. So I made a motion, is there any support for that motion? And
So
then we
what's,
can discuss it
what's,
further.
what's the downside of opening it back up?
I'm not sure what there is to be gained in that all the comments that we did get, we incorporated that were possible. The downside is that we continue to drag out this process. We're at this 26 months later, and I don't know what more we could incorporate. The submission by Marv that came late had some good ideas, but it was a 3-page ChatGPT generated, void of any specifics regarding our township. It doesn't consider the land, the topography. It doesn't. Yeah, it was just too general. And furthermore, it had some doublespeak in it. It said one of the things said that we have policy that's clear and transparent while being flexible and adaptable. Well, how can we be clear and transparent? No, it's clear and predictable while being flexible and adaptable. You can't. That's doublespeak. Who's flexing and adapting? Who gets to decide who flexes and adapts and for what? That's not predictable and that's not clear. So it was not something. There were parts of it that I would consider, but certainly we have an 85-page document versus a 3-page document. I just there was too much that was too undefined for me, too basic, too generic. It may work in Nebraska where we don't have, it's all windmills, same kind of terrain, same geography where they have windmills and cornfields. We have so much diversity in our township. We have over every rolling hill, we have a new microclimate, and we have the water, and we have. So it was just too big, too cookie cutter, and that's not how we are, and it didn't include any of our history or. I think what we have is a very complete, highly nuanced, well-defined description of our township, complete with our history, our core values, and our policy goals. And I am more than content with what we put together. We worked hard on it, and I think it's sufficient. Better than sufficient. I think it's a good master plan.
I think in terms of what a master plan's to do for a township, that we've done everything that we needed to do. We've made the clerical errors. And in turn, we also got foundational zoning changes from various people throughout the township that we can then work towards once we get through what we have on our docket. I don't know how many more months that we need to go through this to what are we going to gain by doing such? And that's my question to everyone. If we're going to go in and change it all, what is the end outcome and how do we work back from that? What do we want to change? What do we want to see different?
Yeah, good point. The master plan is a high-level policy directive. It's not a list of permitted uses. It just I don't know what more you would want to what more you would want to add to that.
When I go through the master plan compared to the zoning, I guess I see more the ordinances and zoning, and this is they don't, from what the master plan says, from the surveys and comments, they don't meet up in a lot of areas on what needs to be prioritized over other things. But that seems to be more that the zoning needs to be, if we're saying the master plan is what we got public input from, I see zoning need to be changed to fit the master plan more than the master plan need to be changed in a lot of areas as far as some wants and needs from the public.
Well, zoning will always continue to evolve. It'll always evolve, but you have to have policy to support or reflect that. So I believe we have that. I believe we have good policy directives, and then the zoning follows that. And again, that changes all the time. Zoning changes all the time. I don't know how you could make it any more reflective of zoning. It permits zoning to evolve. It permits zoning changes to happen.
Patty, a couple comments. You said that our master plan is a high-level document. I think, on the other hand, it really does have a lot of unnecessary detail. I've got the thing that Marv submitted, 16 pages, so I don't know where you're saying it's 3 pages, and it only addresses, there's half the chapters, so it doesn't even touch several of the chapters. I think this is actually a more high-level document that sets out principles without so much detail. I was on the County Planning Commission for 3 years, and we worked the county master plan over during that time too. And I had the same thought about that. I think it's just way too much detail, way too much information that frankly, I think nobody ever looks at. And I don't know why we should have this exhaustive, long document that is, I just think it's not utilized. I think it's overly complex, and it's not really more limiting, but there's just a lot of unnecessary stuff in it, I think. So I would, as much as I hate the thought of working on it longer, I would like to simplify it significantly, quickly. So I wouldn't support that motion. Plus, I think, as the board representative, I think the board is pretty unsatisfied with it, and it's likely not to get past the board if we send it back this way.
Well, I know the board voted 4-1 on that, opening it back up. I don't even know where to start. I don't even know where to start.
I understand that.
If you open it back up for those comments, you gotta open it up to the rest of the public.
Absolutely.
And then it just starts a whole.
Absolutely. We start all over.
Opening yourself up for lawsuits and everything else.
Well, there's no time. We have to review it every 5 years. It can take us forever. There's no time for
I'm
us to
saying
do
that if
it
you're
now.
opening up comments that were past the date, there may have been people that had comments that, oh, this past the date, so I'm not sending it in. And then you go ahead and let board members make their comments after the date, which you would think they would be more in tune to it. And be on, and make sure that they make it, their comments in prior to the deadline. If you go and open it up, you're opening a can of worms, and I'm not.
Well, we have also there has been public comment in here that has requested to open it up, that said that they didn't know about it and hear about it, and it wasn't advertised, so.
But that is not the case. We have been 100% compliant with the Open Meetings
Oh, I
Act
agree,
from the
I
beginning.
agree. But
And if people choose not to tune in, we have no control of when they tune in, when they don't tune in.
I understand that, but we're not saying it's just the board isn't the only one that's saying, we've had public comment saying the same thing.
So they ignored time.
Okay, this is not public comment time. This is commission time.
I guess I go back to the board is asking for before the 23 or 62-day period. So what we're talking about isn't even really what the board told us or gave us in a directive. We did exactly what we were supposed to do. Take comments from before the end of the 62-day period and add them in, which we did. The rest of everything that came in were zoning foundational pieces that we can work on. So what are we doing differently than what the board asked? That specifically was the motion that was carried for before the end of the 62-day period.
outside the two board members, did we receive anything else late from public?
No.
Okay.
No, it was just March.
Okay.
So here's the timeline. February 10th, we hold our public hearing. March 5th, the board votes to keep zoning. March 9th, I get an email from Marv with this document saying, nope, but I'd like to see some changes here. That's the timeline. You draw your own conclusions.
I'm in support of your motion, Patty. I think it's time to put this one to bed and let's make changes on stuff that we can actually do and actually put into effect and not discuss a document that's important, but not nearly as important as the ordinance that we know we need to get in and change. I think that we are having a conversation over something that is not nearly as important as the things that have been put in front of the planning commission as a whole. Let's put this to bed and let's get into other stuff. In my opinion, this conversation is over spilt milk. Let's move on.
Yeah, I'm ready to, we have important stuff to do. And we, the board said, hey, do these 4 things in 6 months. But then they tell us to go back. I mean, I just feel like it's time to put our time and energy into moving forward, and we have ideas, we have things we have to work on, and I would propose that we deny that request.
And Tyler supported.
Yep.
So I'll do a roll call vote if there's no further discussion. Tyler.
Yes.
Okay. Travis.
Yes.
Richard.
No.
All right, and I'm a yes, so motion carried. I'd like to say a couple more things about the master plan. Going forward, yes, we have to review it every 5 years. So the township has paid for my training. I want to share what I know when it's relevant. We just have to review it every 5 years. And if there are no big policy changes, you can review it and sign, date, and adopt it. You're good for another 5 years. We will likely have more language next go around regarding the sand and gravel ordinance that we can incorporate to what we already have. That's another option. And I would think we would want to do a survey again, and hopefully more people would participate. And you can just incorporate that. So we have a range of options going forward. We don't have to have this 26-month long period. Now, part of that was because of the board's decision to repeal. But going forward, there is a range of options. So the other thing I want to just say about the master plan, I was looking at old master plans. I was looking at current existing land uses and future land uses. Something in the old master plan, this is, one of the questions was asked is why do you have this review period, the 63-day review period? And it is because we border other townships. It gives them an opportunity to say, this is compatible with what we have going on in our district, or this is of conflict. Same with residents, same with businesses. So from January 12th, 1999, I'm just going to read 2 excerpts of 2 different letters. And this pertains to sand and gravel. So there's a tie in here. January 12th, 1999, and this is from Stan Borowski, Safety and Environment Guy from John Brothers, and I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing his name correct. He writes, the sand and gravel sawmill and pallet fabricating operations at Druth Brothers is heavily dependent on transportation. In the future, could a zoning permit be denied because of inadequate roads servicing Ellsworth area? Would a zoning board reject a request to develop new sand and gravel deposit because of poor roads to the site? It is possible some of our current operations may be in conflict with the preservation of prime agricultural land, forests, and scenic corridors. The questions remain. How can industrial concerns be addressed to avoid future conflict? So that question continues to loom large, as well as Gerald Druth wrote on 1999. He wrote, this is an excerpt of his letter. My general concern after reading the script, meaning the master plan, and viewing the various maps included in the plan, is that it leans too heavily toward preservation of agriculture, rural, and scenic land and discourages any other development. I agree that Banks Township includes an abundance of beautiful nature, but I also believe that controlled development can exist with nature. And I would concur with that, but it just goes to show you that these questions still remain 27 years later, and we don't really have any good answers or solutions for them. So just tuck that away as we discuss sand and gravel going forward, so. Or, next on the agenda is setbacks. And I got from our clerk a nice big map, so we can see. Richard, do you need a map? When we talk? I'll give you a map.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, so, we put forth, we only addressed front setbacks because that's where there was a problem. And it went to the Antrim County Planning Commission, and they thought it was very generous what we offered, but the board did not. So they offered us some suggestions on what to do. They would like to see us address side and rear setbacks. And a parameter they gave us is front and rear setbacks to 20 feet. Everywhere else that's less than that stays the same. Side setbacks to 15 feet. Anywhere else that's less than that stays the same. So I would go district by district here, and if you don't mind, if you pull out your schedule of regulations, and we'll start at the bottom here. On village manufacturing. So setback, the front setback, and Kenner, do you have a schedule of regulations
I
there?
have copies if anyone needs them.
Okay. And so you'll maybe need to make notes so we can, yeah, okay. So the front is 20 feet, side is 15, that's what the board proposed, and then the rear is 25. And so they would like to see that 20.
For the rear.
For the rear, which does give them 5 more feet, so that we would give them 5 more feet to build, if they're wanting to build or expand. That seems reasonable. I mean, any discussion on that, any thoughts on that? If we changed the rear to 20.
I guess, to me, I'm struggling with that concept in its entirety. What was the overall conversation, and Richard, this is a question for you. What was the overall conversation for these numbers being put forth to us, and what was the reasoning for it? Was it due to public comment? Was it due to, that's what the board thought, hey, this is what it needs to be? Like, what was the reasoning for the numbers that were given to us?
I believe the answer would be that the consensus was in that big zoning decision that we want to make zoning less restrictive and make it more palatable, more workable. So this is effort in that direction.
Okay.
Just to make it less restrictive. Cut in many cases, we kind of cut them in half. We made them a lot more uniform as well, simplified. There's not so many different numbers. There's a lot of 20s on here now instead of a lot of different ones. Just trying to make it simpler and a little less restrictive.
And I would add that that's what was one view. I would add that the point of this discussion was compromise for the sake of compromise. I didn't hear a lot of practical implications given for why we would want to do that. It was solely about compromising. So, I am, yes, a little salty about that because I like to hear reasons. I want to hear a logical reason why you want to do that.
Well, the logical reason is to let people use more of their land.
The only thing you can't do is build too close to a lot line. You can use your land all you want. It's about where the building goes, where a structure goes.
Okay, right. I could amend my statement to say to allow people to build on more of their land.
I mean, do you really want to have manufacturing 20 feet from any major highway with trucks and semis and deliveries and all of that?
Well, do remember this is always in addition to the right-of-ways.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, in fact, I'd like to see there be no setbacks where the right-of-ways are on major highways, but that gets too complex again to carve out 31. I'd like to see primary roads like the Atwood Road maybe have a little more setback. But to have the same kind of setbacks on every little local road, I think is unnecessary because on little side roads, like our road, for example, it's not important to be that far off the road with things, but we were just trying to make it much more clear and simple.
All right, well, let's keep moving. On village manufacturing, I would let them build more. I would let them have, I would go for 20 for that. Manufacturing, I say keep the front 50. And again, with the side and rear, if you want to move that to 15 and 20, that does permit them to expand their business or bump out buildings or add structures if they want to do that.
And I don't have, I made 2 copies of the old one instead of 1 copy of so I don't have their new, so they want, for manufacturing, it's 50, 15, and 20.
Yes. It would be what they would propose.
Okay.
20, manufacturing is 20 front, 15 side, and 20
Okay,
rear.
yes, you're right. Now here, we voted on this. The county planning commission approved what we had. I don't want to tinker with the front. I think, and I have good reason for that, if you'll indulge me. Yeah, so I would leave manufacturing front at 50. And if you look at your map, pull out your map. So here they are pulling out onto a curve on a hill, and it's a bigger vehicle. I would leave that 50 feet.
I would like to see manufacturing stay 50 feet. There's only one area that we have it in the entire township, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah,
And it's down right in Ellsworth,
yeah.
just outside of Ellsworth.
So if you want to leave the front 50, change the side to 15 and the rear to 20, again, that allows them a little more room to expand if they want to. That would be what I would propose.
That means village would stay the same,
Village stays the same.
mobile home stays the same.
Yep, no, you can cross those 2 out, no changes there. Now, though residential, moving along here, I would like to see the front 50, and here's why. If you look at residential, remember what you do for one district, you have to do for all. Otherwise, you're violating uniformity of use. So think about what I wrote in your notes. If you have a 17.5 foot to 20 foot pickup and you add a trailer, and these guys are trying to back out under 31 or safely get out under 31, these county roads, not so much of an issue. But that residential there trying to safely back out on the road, I say leave that 50. Any further comments on there?
You're talking about, you just said 31. Remember the very wide right-of-ways there. So these setbacks are on top of the right-of-way.
Correct.
And what are they proposing for low density? It's 20,
20.
10, and 30.
20, 10, 20. Low density residential.
Where's that on your map?
Yeah.
Well, like I said, all the county roads, no biggie.
Right.
This is 31.
Right, but 31 has wide right-of-ways. Most of it is 75 feet from the center line. So plus this 20. So it seems ample.
Okay, question mark on that one. Question mark on front R1, we'll come back to that. Front. Side is already below threshold, proposed threshold, and then the rear is 35. I would change it to 25, I guess. People live in their backyards. That's where they live, play.
Which one are you on now, Patty?
Rear residential.
Residential, that'd be the low density
density
residential,
residential, yeah.
okay. The board was proposing 20, you're saying what?
25. Instead of 35, go down to 25.
And then for what they're proposing, conservation to go from 35 to 20,
Yep,
and same for ag.
yep. On rears, sides are 15 on those two, on ag and CR.
Can we go back to CR? If you look on your maps, you have all these nice big parcels. That's all well and good, but if you look on Lake Michigan is where we get into trouble, where they have 100-foot wide lots. So if they maximum size vehicle that can get on a road is 102 inches or 8.5 feet, and you try to put an 8.5-foot truck. Now you've got 11.5 feet wiggle room on these lots. 11.5-foot wiggle room for someone to reshingle, someone to remodel, and that's if no trees or shrubs are in the way. So I would with CR, I would leave that alone. Now we're going to get complaints of neighbors building on top of neighbors. And again, we have lots of there's 4 areas of CR, but the problem comes with the 100-foot wide lots. And what you do for one, you have to do for all. So that's why I would leave CR absolutely alone. I would not change any of those. And that's my rationale for that.
I'm in agreement with that.
This is raw, real government at work. Unpolished, unvarnished. Any other thoughts on that, guys? So I would propose CR stays 20, 20, 35. We already moved front CR, remember, from 50 to 20.
And then ag goes from
So-
50, go for it.
Well, for your side, I see a rationale for, side property lines, but what about the rear in CR?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if you can see it on a map here, but we do see these rear to rear pieces, or front to rear pieces. I think you're gonna, we didn't change side and rear because we don't have any issues with them. But now I think if you mess around with these, now we're gonna have people complaining about it. That's what I think. And then we reconfigure. And kind of weigh in here anytime you have something smart to say.
Well, I mean, I agree that, the rear setback, if you have lots that are back to back, becomes very important.
And that's what we have here. And it's a small section and some in here. I don't know if you can see it on your map, Richard.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, I'm not sure. Those tiny lines, I guess. Mm-hmm.
If I could add, in the R1 district, 50-foot setback is pretty big, I think. I mean, I think that maybe there could be a compromise there. Because that is measured from the right of way. And even if you have a 33-foot right of way, that's 80, plus feet back from the center line of the road. That's a lot. in other communities, I've never seen a foot setback in the R1 residential district. It's usually 35 or 40, for what it's worth.
Okay.
I guess my take on it would be, because yeah, you're talking about that little piece in CR there, but then you're ignoring all this CR.
I'm not ignoring, but I'm saying what you do for one, you have to do for all.
Right. I do agree manufacturing needs to be kept bigger just for parking and trucks and that.
I'm comfortable with having some sort of lower on the R1
For front,
for front. I don't think 35 is too unreasonable either way. I mean, that puts us close to the middle of where we need to be, in the middle of what we did for CR and Ag, and then the CR for the rear. I'm comfortable making that go to 25, and that's some reduction. Yeah. I don't think we want to go through and change every last one of them for the sake of just uniformity throughout this entire chart. If there's things that we need to do to reduce them because they're too egregious, let's do it. But for the sake of moving it just to move it with no data to tell us to do so, I struggle with that concept.
Well, I know of 2 different buildings that went up and I do believe they went, well, one didn't get allowed and one did because of setbacks. That would be,
in which district?
one was Ag, one would have been in CR.
Was it a front issue or was it one of the side or rears?
One was a rear, one was a front.
So let's reduce it down to match what agriculture is, and that way.
My motion, I would make a motion that we accept the board's recommendations with the exception of manufacturing, frontage, and leave it at 50.
I'd support that.
Because if we're arguing over 5-10 feet,
Right.
and this is another one of those that got given to us that now we're 4 months in, we're still fighting with.
Well, it goes back and forth between the board.
I know.
So can you restate your motion?
To accept the board's recommendations for setbacks with the exception of manufacturing front setback and leave that at 50 feet.
In support by Richard.
Yes.
Okay, I can't support that because of CR, guys. I just, now we're getting into trouble. Now we are gonna get complaints. And so I don't think you wanna, we already moved that front to 20. I would leave the side and rear. The lots are 100-foot wide lots. And I just wouldn't wanna reduce that anymore.
We're only proposing to move that from 20 to 15. It's only 5 more feet on the sides, and on those 100-foot lots.
Right, so 11.5 minus 5 is what? That's how much wiggle room a truck has, someone has to remodel, someone has to fix up their home. That's if, again, if there's no trees or shrubs in the way. I think you're gonna be stepping on neighbors' toes.
to be fair on that, Patty, and Ken, correct me if I'm wrong in this, this would still keep the footnote to schedule of regulations H. It's not gonna change this, and it states for lots of record, less than 150 feet wide, the side yard setback shall be reduced to 10 feet. Would that stay in place?
Yeah, so for those 100-foot lots, they're less than 20 feet.
And I, thank you, Patty, I agree with you, but we also have it right there that allows, I get it, like I deal with it on a constant basis. We're building homes that are 10 feet 1 inch off the side setback, and it's an absolute nightmare. It is, you can't grade, you can't do anything if you don't get along with your neighbor, you can't put in a retaining wall. It makes everyone's life substantially harder. But we also have that footnote in there.
Okay.
So while I don't like it, I also get it. I'm cool with changing some of these things. I just, I get where Patty's coming from, because there's a chance that you're gonna have now a bunch of people coming in and saying, well, why does my neighbor get to do that? When I built my house in 2021, I didn't have a chance to do that, and I don't know what that can of worms is. And that's where I'm sticking with Patty on that one for the sole fact of none of us have a crystal ball to see who's gonna come in here. But there's work that can be done with what we have, absolutely. Ag, I follow the board's thoughts. Low density, let's reduce the front setback. I think 20 is light, but I'm also flexible. The rest of it, like Trav said, keep front manufacturing the same, and let's make change. It might not be everything what they want, but quite frankly, what they propose to me isn't everything that I want either, and that's the happy medium.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just to be clear, are you following along with numbers that we put out?
I am.
Or- Okay. So easy peasy, cross off manufacturing and village. You don't have to consider those two.
Well, no.
No, we would still
Oh,
make
excuse me.
side would be 15 in manufacturing, rear would be 20.
I misspoke. Village and mobile home district is what I meant.
Gotcha, okay.
Yep.
Does anyone want to see something less than 35 on low residential, or do we want to move forward with that? How do we, that's one that we haven't short of.
Well, I made a motion to accept.
Okay, that's right.
What the board proposed with the exception of the frontage and manufacturing.
And Richard supported it.
Right.
So we need to vote?
We do. So, let's do roll call vote. So, Richard,
Yes.
Yes.
I'm a no.
I'm a no.
Okay. So let's try another motion. Motion failed. It's 2-2.
So yeah, that's a no.
Motion carried. So are we good on village manufacturing 2015-20?
Yes. 2015-20, village manufacturing. Manufacturing. 50 front, 15 side, 20 rear. That allows them to bump out. And now go up to low density residential. 35, 10, 25.
Nope. 20, 10, 20.
Okay.
You've got those wide right-of-ways in those areas.
So Richard, you said 35, 10, 20?
On low-density residential, I
He said
said
20.
20, 10, 20.
Okay. I would say 35, 10, 20. That's what I would say on that.
I think that's a better compromise. And Richard, I totally understand what you're saying. I agree with you. It's egregious, but at the same time, what percentage of R1 with frontage on 31 is the total percentage of all R1? If you're following there.
Wait, say that again.
What percentage of lots and land in R1 has
31 frontage.
31 frontage? And if we're gonna make it based on that, we're making it, in my opinion, we're making it based on the minority of properties within that district.
Well,
That's true.
but I think Richard's point was to Patty's point that on 31 you need more room. And Richard was saying that, well, you've got more room there anyway because of setbacks.
Yep.
You don't need it on 31.
Yep.
It's the other areas that don't have that 31 setback due to the state.
But correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there a 31 ordinance already in effect that we can't change that based on this map in general? Don't we have a ordinance within, or something within our ordinance that states frontage on 31, regardless of what it's zoned, is to be 50 feet?
No, I'm not aware of that.
I'm not either.
Okay, I thought that that was a conversation we had at one point, and maybe I'm misunderstanding.
But that's an MDOT road too, so,
Right.
you know, it's gonna be bigger right away.
Hmm.
And actually, Travis, Tyler, I think it's actually a pretty significant percentage of R1 is on 31. I'd say it's,
I'm thinking from lots only,
Okay.
not from
yeah,
a,
there might be lots of lots in here.
yeah, it's hard to tell.
There's a lot of little lines, I agree.
Is it potentially gonna, you know, to your point, to open a can of worms, you know, you have a lot of people that were required to be 50-foot setback. If we go down to 20, that's a big reduction. You know, my house is at 50, my neighbor gets, basically looking out my front window, I see the back of their house, is that gonna open up, you know, can of worms with people upset? Maybe stepping down to 35, it's not as big of a jump from 50 to 20.
I would propose that. That seems reasonable to me.
He wants 20, you want 35. How about 30?
For the sake of compromise, I would agree with 30, but I don't really want to go any lower than that. But that's just my opinion.
I would too.
So that leaves us with CR.
Mm-hmm.
We're 20 front right now, we're 20 on the side, and we're 35 in the rear.
What they want is, for both those, is 20, 15,
20.
20.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see sides stay the same. 35 for the rear, we could have a conversation on them. I would have a conversation on. I don't think we need to mess with the sides.
We do 20 across the board. It's only a 5-foot drop in ag and a 15 in CR. And leave the sides at 20.
My only question with that, and this is solely based on the lake frontage properties that have a split between the lot. Are people going to be butting right up next to the road, you know, within 20 feet of the private road? And I don't know the rules on the right of way of that or whatnot. But are we not taking that into consideration, knowing that there are quite a few lots that are in that particular area? I'm all for changing it, right? But a truck, I don't know what the average length of a full-size truck is.
17 and a half to 20 foot.
So now we're gonna barely have enough spot for parking at the rear of a home butting up next to a road that we traditionally have a bunch of issues with in general. So do we say, hey, for the rear and conservation, bring that down to 30. We're still in line with conservation CR for what it's intended to be. And we've made a substantial amount of changes to this in its entirety, and send that up to the board and see what they think.
So for CR,
20, 20, 30.
That seems reasonable. And Trav, you're suggesting 20 across the board for ag?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That sounds good.
Can I read these off?
Yeah. Yep.
So for ag, it's gonna be 20, 20, 20. For CR, it's gonna be 20, 20, 30. For R1, 30, 10, 20. For mobile home, 20, 10, 15. Village, 25, 10. Manufacturing, 50, 15, 20. And then village manufacturing, 20, 15, 20.
Correct. Perfect. And I will make the motion to change the setbacks based on what Ken just read out, and be prepared to review at next month's meeting.
Support?
Support.
So all in favor, say aye, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Alright, motion carried. Alright, thanks guys, I know that was 2 weeks, but gotta do it.
For clarification, will this be a public hearing or just a draft for discussion?
Can we, since we just went through all of this, can we go ahead and have a public hearing?
You could, yeah.
Are you guys okay with that?
Mhm.
Okay, let's move this ball down the field then. We'll have a public hearing, and that would be on June 9th. Alright. Next on the agenda is establishing a lakefront zone, for discussion purposes, lakefront zone, waterfront residential, and Ken, what's the term used? Overlay district. All one and the same, correct?
Yes, well, an overlay district and a zone are different. I mean, you could have a waterfront zone that would only apply in certain areas. How an overlay district works is the underlying zoning stays the same, but the overlay district kind of goes on top of that. And it's common to have on lakefront, on riverfront, on streams, where the underlying zoning stays R1, but you impose an overlay to require increased setbacks from the water and limit what you can build and what you can do in that sort of area.
Okay, so what's our working term then?
That's a question, do we want to have this be a new zoning district, or do we want it to be an overlay? Same process to amend the zoning ordinance to include it. That's a question for the planning commission. I guess, where does the planning commission and the board want this to apply? To all waterfront properties in the township? Would that be just lakes? Would that include rivers? Would that include streams? So those are questions.
Yeah, so our directive was, Lake Michigan
Okay,
and Sinclair, Ellsworth, Wilson,
And Little Torch.
and Little Torch.
okay.
And the small lakes, pond, rivers that we have around, small, bodies of water are either publicly owned or there is no subdivision on them.
Okay.
So that would be the distinguishing characteristic of that.
I mean, the overlay is more flexible because you don't have to create all new zoning regulations. It just goes on top of whatever district exists in that area. But I noticed that, we already have a greenbelt provision in the zoning ordinance. And then, in that schedule of regulations, that subsection B, we have for lots which border a lake or a stream, the minimum structure setback on the waterfront side shall be 50 feet from the ordinary high water mark. And the ordinance defines ordinary high water mark too. So we've got some regulations in there currently.
I get, what's the reason for doing an overlay or doing anything special on this lakefront zone?
Well, did you watch the meeting?
Yeah.
Okay. You didn't watch the 5-hour meeting.
Some of us have to get up at 2:30 in the morning.
Okay. I'll throw out what my interpretation is. I've had a few conversations with Alex about this. The people that live on those lakes, they have more of a different life than us that live on big parcels. And so we just want to address that. We want to permit them to do what they want to do, and we want to keep doing what we want to do on our big parcels. Help me out here, Richard, and Floundering.
That's as good as I can do.
Okay. Well, that's what Alex said. He's actually in the other room, but, yeah. The idea was to allow them the opportunity to, yeah, just allow, they live a very different life. They're a lot of summer residents. They're, often not year-round residents, and, bear in mind, this would be, everything that's existing continues. Everything that's existing is grandfathered in, so to speak.
Right.
So this only applies to new development.
Yeah.
Anything new coming in. So,
Is the idea to restrict development in that sort of lakefront zone or be more permissible? The big thing with lakes, at least in my experience, is people don't want their views blocked. You know, they don't wanna look down and see somebody's accessory building, and they wanna be able to just have a clean view. So normally the way these apply is you'd be more restrictive in terms of what you could build in that area. You know, docks, you know, low elevation structures would be okay, but you're not able to put like, you know, a pole building or anything like that. But that might not be what the board is wanting to.
So a lot of that's covered by our green zone. and-
Yeah, it is.
That's the biggest one.
Yeah.
Our biggest complaint traditionally.
Right.
And
I guess I look at, are we tackling a problem that hasn't presented itself to us?
well, maybe Travis, but the thing is, the board asked us to do this.
I may have missed the mark too in what I presented. I, you know, didn't watch the meeting either, so I took a shot.
If I could, I think the focus is more on allowing those outside the waterfront to do more rather than less restrict waterfront.
Is Mark gonna run the meeting?
Okay, thank you. I guess I can, I know, in the conversation I had with Alex, he said, you know, don't think about Carpenter Lake or Mud Lake or Mobile Lake, those, because they don't have any subdivisions and they're privately owned, it is more about preserving views, preserving, and just the fact that they have a different, you know, they're here for, there's part-time residents and,
Cause I know they have that one issue going on right now where a gentleman had 2 lots and built over the middle of one. And now wants to put another residence on there and is told no, but he got told he can do an ADU, and so that's, but I guess that's,
I don't know that that's relevant to this.
right, but that's, I guess, again, I'm looking at it as, it's,
The sample that I included with the memo was really strict. It came from a community that's really tight on what they allow on the waterfront. So maybe work back from that, you know, that might not be the best fit for things, but there's a framework to start from.
Okay.
And that one would limit what you can plant, what you can remove in terms of vegetation, and then what you can build and what you can't build. So.
I don't think that we want to go down that road collectively, do we?
No, I don't think so either.
I don't.
We don't want to do things to make this more complex. And I'm sorry that I appreciated Marv's input, because I'm sorry, I don't have any notes with me and I can't remember what what
Okay.
the specific goal was here, and I'm not very helpful at that point.
Do you want me to present next one what we already have in the ordinance, and then we can discuss?
I guess I think we just more leave it up to the board if they've got something specific in mind, but if we don't have, you know, just to have something, like our green zone's covered, we've got, you know, I haven't heard in any way that this has been an issue or.
I get where Patty you were coming with the RV ordinance, because the whole reason, based on what I remember, is
Right.
that all stemmed from 2 instances, one being a lakefront situation and the second being a residential R1 situation.
Right. But
so-
that can be addressed with. an
With the
RV.
ordinance in and of
Right.
itself.
Yeah. Part of the reason I was looking at old master plans, future land use, it has been a future land use district proposed since 2005. It's been in the master plan to create a waterfront residential, I'll say that term instead of overlay. And the intent is to preserve the scenic beauty, property value, and environmental integrity of areas adjacent to lakes, ponds, rivers, and streams. With the use being low to moderate density, single-family waterfront residential. And I think, so that would be our starting point. Yes, we identified the lakes to be included. And I think you got that, Ken, I think I sent that to you. Setbacks are all the same. Like what we have, setbacks, I mean, the 50 front water foot, I think the one you sent us said 60 foot.
Yeah, and that was just a sample, just for discussion.
Okay. And same uses permitted by right in each of the district, actually, this is all in CR, so it's all the same uses. And I think, yeah, if property changes hand, again, they get grandfathered in, whether grandpa gives up the cottage to the grandkids, they can still have everything the same. So it's existing, so they're lawfully non-conforming, whatever's there, it just impacts future development. And, yeah, and then what structures require zoning permit? So on page 2 of this sample one that you sent us, I do have a question here. It talks about the structures. I never even heard of some of these. Of course, I can look them up. Like armoring and the idea is to recreational docks, boardwalks, pump houses, beach decks, stormwater erosion control devices. All of these would require special use, but we don't want that, do we?
That text was just from somebody that was at the meeting and sat here, and it said it was for building too close to the waterfront, which is kind of covered by our green zone. That was their take from it, but
Somebody's
Okay.
watching and trying to give more clarification.
someone's watching.
Is that
and giving 2
allowed?
cents worth of-
Public
Is that
comment.
permissible?
That's
I don't
public
know.
comment.
And it wasn't my wife, so I'll say that.
Okay.
I would move that we tell the board we think we're good with what we have and we don't want to make the ordinance more complicated by creating another district or an overlay.
Okay. We were, the only other thing I was wondering about was RVs. We're gonna talk about the RV ordinance, it's not on the agenda this month because I wanted to have the basics of this before we discussed RVs, and wondering if there's an impact regarding RVs. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at the RV ordinance, I actually put it back on the board's agenda. Like, they asked us to make that one of the 4 things that we adjust.
Right.
And I wanna know from them, cause we have ideas about what we think, but I wanna know from them what's problematic before we go any further. I mean, there's no point in this going back and forth. I wanna know what's problematic, and I wondered if
I
this would
agree.
tie into that.
You're
If-
saying specifically RVs on lakefront properties.
Yeah, like the
Well,
100-foot lots.
then it can be part of the RV ordinance.
Yeah, and just keep that
Yeah,
separate. Okay.
let's not create I'm not for creating a whole other district or overlay.
I'm sure.
And I'll do my
Curtis
best
doesn't want them all
to
worked.
take that forward on the board,
Okay,
if we can agree on that.
but what about future development? What about, is all this property already bought up and we don't have to worry about that? I mean,
I think we have enough, everything in place to cover it. I think everything's fine. It's plenty restrictive.
yeah, okay.
Everything's good.
I before we say let's cross it off, I think what Patty did with the RV, if there's a reason, can you please explain to us the reason
Right.
exactly, including with this overlay, and say, hey, if this is what you want us to do, Don't just say, hey, go do this, and then don't give us anyone direction, right? That's not giving anyone the tools to succeed at any task. If you want us to continue the conversation with the overlay, please give us the exact reasons, and the same thing with the RV. And then from there, let's all have another conversation about it, and then then say we're either going to not do this or we are going to do that, right? Because I think right now we're all kind of flying a little blind as to what's exactly the purpose of this overlay to begin with.
I agree.
And let's give us the tools to be successful, and then we can make our decision right, wrong, or indifferent.
Yeah, I like that approach. If you can identify the problem, the solutions kind of present themselves. So I want to know what the problem is.
Yeah, and I don't see a problem here. That's not being addressed with the RV
Okay.
ordinance that we're already gonna take up once they give us a little more info, so.
Okay, so Richard made a motion, no one is gonna support it, correct?
I'll
Probably not.
support it.
Oh, it was
What was the motion?
Oh,
to tell the board we don't think we need to move ahead with lakefront zone or overlay
And because
because we think we have adequate guidelines in the present zoning districts.
okay.
But yeah, that's my motion. It's fine if it doesn't pass or get supported.
I'll support that.
All right. Travis supports. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carried. I didn't vote, but motion carried. Did
And you know what?
oppose
The
that?
effect will be the same.
Okay.
If the board isn't satisfied with that, then we will make sure to give more direction if it comes back
Okay.
here.
I like
They
that
said-
plan.
yeah,
So
they
it'll
said
be the
that.
same either way. I agree with what you said too, Tyler. but-
Right. That's the only reason I voted no. It was
Right.
like
That's fine.
before we, put it away completely. Just let us know, right?
yeah,
Right.
okay, are you a no? You did
Abstain.
not vote, or were you in the block of ayes?
I'm in support of Richard's motion.
Yep, and so
It's
3
3 to 1.
to 1.
Motion carried.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right, moving right along here, sand and gravel. I thought it'd be really important to talk about, because Catherine wasn't able to come, it's going to be super important to re-emphasize what she said. I want everybody to hear, I want it on record. And so guys, help fill me in on this. We looked at an ordinance, anybody can find this ordinance, as a potential template. It's from Yankee Springs. It's a township that's 36 square miles, ours is 45. It's much more densely populated, 3,500 people. We have about 1,600 people. We have more lakes, 19 lakes there, so lots of water there. And so that was a potential template. But I want to talk about what Catherine said, and I have some notes here. And again, please help fill in. I started by asking her to, we don't want to have overlap in our ordinance. If something's already governed by an entity like Eagle or the Mine Health Safety Administration, let's not have overlap on that. And her response was, well, Eagle will be involved if there's wetlands. And then as far as the Mine Health Safety Administration, they're not a big part of it. They're there initially, and then they will come in, but they aren't watching operations. They're not governing operations. The other thing she said is that a applicant, she gave this high level end-to-end process of what walking an applicant through. It could take up to a year. The process could take up to a year. The standard studies, hydrological study, topographic and geological analysis, noise, vibration, traffic impact, air quality analysis, endangered species impact, economic analysis. She said these are all standard studies. The other thing that she pointed out was that as far as escrow for process and review, the developer pays their professionals, the township has to pay, we have to pay our professionals. And you do that by getting an estimate from them, and then that's your escrow. A permit I'm getting into the details of this now. What else did she say, guys? Oh, the other thing that I want to point out, she said if a sand and gravel company that's been in operation for some time, they are not going to be surprised by any of the things that are in this ordinance. This is kind of what they would anticipate having to deal with if they were to apply. Potentially serious adverse consequences. Uniform. There's six adverse consequences that you have to address those. Those are kind of standard part of any ordinance for mining. What else stands out to you about what Catherine said as a basis?
I guess I go back to, having what I brought up at a meeting for is the comparables. We're comparing ourselves to Yankee Springs. I worked in that area. That was in the county that I worked in. Berry County, Yankee Springs is there. It is nothing compared to Banks Township. It is very touristy with the lakes. A lot of that property, the blue whatever trail goes through there for mountain biking and where it goes coast to, all across country. A lot of state hiking land, conservation areas for like the state owns that people can hunt on. That area is not ag at all. The other side of the county is. There are a lot of ag county, but Yankee Springs area in general, there are some good farms there. But in general, it's a tourist destination. You're getting people from Grand Rapids coming through there to come into Yankee Springs. That's the exit is where the casino is off 31. If you head on down there, you'll eventually hit Yankee Springs. So I just go back to this, all these things we get. We're getting these long drawn out where, Horton Bay area, whichever township that is, was one of the comparables I brought. It's right next door. It's like a 10-page, pretty simple cover stuff. And I guess that's what I want to see is something a little more close to home in a more like area to ours as far as size and population, and we're primary agriculture. With the exception of Lake Michigan on your homes, we're not a vacation destination. We're a summer home place, but.
Did you look at, so you like something more comparable to, did you get a chance to look at the ordinance that Ken sent us from Norwood Township?
I did not, just because I had a friend of mine that committed suicide over Norwood struggle and it being not involved in following that when it went. I think there was people in power that didn't like what he was doing and caused a lot of turmoil there. So that was, having followed that, having a little inside knowledge on just if I've got more money than you, I can make you not be able to do what you want on your land, and so no, I did not. So.
I did read through it. I think that there were some things there that are definitely usable. I don't know, where do we start? My only question I had, Patty, is you were giving, at one point we talked about the police power ordinance that we had there acting as a double. How do we circle back to see how that's going to go? Because didn't we at one point, we all had our private over there create a motion to change the police power ordinance that we currently have in effect, in an effort to not lap that police power with the soil extraction ordinance that we have, to make that more clear. Correct me if I'm wrong there, if I'm remembering that.
That was the conversation, yeah.
So I guess before and maybe they're two totally different things and they can coincide with one another, but how do we circle back, wrap up what we've started, and then where do we even start here? Is it take an ordinance that we collectively agree with as a planning commission and say, this is what the foundation of how we want to start? Is that kind of what we're thinking? Okay.
And I like yours that you brought up, that you
It's
have.
too simple, it's
Right.
way too.
And I agree, but if we, instead of trying to start here and whittle it down, is it easier to start at the basic? And, I agree, yours was simple and basic, okay, here's a basic outline, what do we need to add to this basic outline? Instead of trying to pick through something that's super restrictive, I will take this out and this out, and adding in what needs to be added in.
That's one approach. That's one approach. I guess I go back to Catherine's comment, that anyone who's in this business, they aren't gonna be surprised by this.
Right.
This was a readable ordinance, at least that. I mean, I could still, but, some of the things I didn't like about it, so if you want me to ask her for another template, I can do that. I like this one though, actually. I didn't like that it has a 15-acre restriction. I feel like that's micromanaging. The permitting use is a 2-year permit, and then they have a public hearing every 2 years. And with all the, monitoring that happens in this particular one, I would wanna know why you would wanna have a public hearing every 2 years to re-permit. It is important, like there's regular monitoring and reporting of groundwater levels in surrounding areas. And they have an independent certified engineer or surveyor that gives an annual report to the zoning administrator. And, I thought that would be something useful to know. It can be modified, if the plan isn't going as, life happens, if it's not going according to plan, they can modify the plan by mutual consent. I liked all the reporting that happens with this regarding, monitoring of wells, getting a baseline there. It does rely very heavily, well, I guess I'll paraphrase what I heard Catherine say, and at the risk of being wrong, but basically I heard her say, if you don't have it baked into your ordinance, you're gonna be in trouble. If you don't have enforcement baked into your ordinance, you cannot be relying on these outside sources. And you're putting them in a position, indefensible position, I'll say it that way. So, a lot of this I liked, a narrative description of the operation. I mean, we could go on and on. There was many things I liked in there. The phasing timetable, questionable, things happen, things change. We don't have to have that in there. I am inclined to use this as a template and just take out what we don't like. So that's why I wanted to know your pros and cons about this specific one. I think it gets close to what we want.
I think it's considerably too complex and detailed and restrictive. I don't like it. I like some of the much shorter, simpler ones that we've seen. I'd like to start with those as a template and beef them up a little if necessary in places.
Okay, for instance, Richard.
Well, I don't even have it in front of me, but I'd have to, I think that, it's not public comment time. I'm distracted by the. I think it's, to me, it was not a lot different. It went back to about the only difference between that and the one that the previous board adopted was removal of a lot of the legalese. But otherwise, it was still very complex and unnecessarily lengthy. And you just picked out several things in there that you would like to change, which is fine. But I don't know,
That's the whole point of what we're trying. We need to start somewhere, and it's a template. And in my opinion, while yes, this is lengthy and it is moderately complex, I don't find it as overly complex at all. It covers a lot of bases and it's a lot easier, in my opinion, to take out than it is to remove. And that's just my opinion. That's how my mind works. I'd rather read something and say, I don't agree with that, than try to take something that is smaller and then try to remember all of the things that we should be putting into it, right? That's
Well, that's kind of where Catherine fits in though too.
correct. Yep. I don't know.
It is a complex issue. It just is.
How does this compare, again, I didn't go through the Norwood one, how does Yankee compare to Norwood? Is it,
It's Norwood's does not have as much enforcement stuff in it. Ken, would you be able to elaborate any on that?
And I didn't look at the Yankee Springs one.
Yeah, I know you
so,
didn't. I'm putting you on the spot here.
You know, the Norwood one is complex, but it's not nearly as complex as the current one here in the township. You know, when this whole thing started, Norwood was one we looked at, and then Metamora, the decision was to go the Metamora route. I mean, this one covers all the bases and, you know.
This one meaning Norwood?
Norwood, and gets to the root of whether there'll be any serious consequences created by the proposed sand and gravel. I mean, I think it could be scaled down, but I agree that, you know, you start here and you whittle it down. But, you know, if we have a member who's, you know, has a good reason not to wanna review this one, then.
well, I kind of was annoyed with Norwood, being Norwood, when I presented some other ones to comparable around the Charlevoix, Emmett County area, but this is fine. I mean, I guess that's my question, it's my personal feelings aside, is if this one starts out less restrictive, but you and Tyler both looked through it?
What, the Norwood?
The Norwood one.
I have before.
Okay. So if this is, you know, do we start here on the less restrictive one, if that's what we're going for? That is a closer comparison. Because again, it sounds like we don't want to build up, we want to tone down.
I would propose we pull out things we don't want. It is a complex issue, guys, it just is.
Because you know, we need to, instead of trying to pick 5 different townships that have 5 different things and trying to, you know, like, pick one that's compiled, that's in, everybody go through it and have Catherine go through it, and what do you like, what do you don't like, what do you want to add, what do you want to take out. We give this to Catherine, if this, you know, if we're already starting less restrictive with Norwood over Yankee. And I guess I do, you know, Norwood's right next door, is, you know, we need a starting point. So is Yankee
Right.
the starting point, or is Norwood the starting point?
Yeah, that's, and I would propose Yankee Springs would be, but, here, I'm gonna issue a little challenge here. When you say the word restrictive, you gotta have something attached to it. You just can't use this blanket term. It gets us nowhere.
Okay, and I don't.
I
and
mean,
I
that
don't
for
mean
myself
to
as
say-
well.
And I guess I need to correct myself, because from ours, it's too complicated. I ought to be,
You mean the one,
our current.
November
what we have.
2024?
The one we currently
Okay.
have in effect, that was, I think it is too restrictive in a lot of areas, but I think it's overcomplicated. There's, you know, going through and this, and it's just, it's legalese. It was, and that was his intention. It was making people jump through hoops. And that's what I feel that we got told by the board is, we don't want all this legalese. We want it less restrictive. We want it more easier to comprehend.
That's some of the board's view. I would say there's a range of opinions on that. But, the November 2024, they asked us to rework, so here we are. So, was there anything about Yankee Springs that you liked? Pros, there's a lot of great safeguards in there for the community, with regarding to monitoring. The only thing that may be it does rely heavily on the zoning administrator, and so that may be a place where we would need a third party or someone else to do some of that reporting to. But you gotta, yeah, I think it's important to watch out for people's water around, their wells and so forth, and that's all in there. The study's all standard, they just are. And then the rest of it, regarding the reclamation, there was a performance bond in there. And I know they do that for roads, state and county do that for roads for timelines to make sure that things get done on time. This had a performance bond for reclamation. There was a lot of safeguards that would just watch out for our township for many, many years to come. Someone can't transfer a permit to another person, you know, that all has to be approved, so. There was a lot in here that I liked, and I'd rather start here and pull back, but I'm open to, we gotta get moving on this, so. It's a hard thing, and it's nothing any of us have any expertise in. Let's just not pretend. I'm not suggesting any of us are pretending, but we have to rely on the experts for this. And the experts being the professionals that who do this all the time, the people who do the studies, the people who are in the industry, the sand and gravel industry, they, you know, so. Path forward here, guys. What do you want to do?
I'm comfortable with starting with this, Yankee Springs as a starting point, and let's everyone come in and say, what do you want changed? Provided one another 3-5 days beforehand, like, this is what I see changed, that I'd like to see changed in here, and let's sit down and see what everyone's notes are.
Okay.
Like, you can say, I don't want line item 5, 6, or H, I, you know what I mean? If that's what it needs to go, then let's do something with it. I mean, I don't know where to go.
Yeah. I had an email conversation with Dave. I know he would support that, your position on that. Start with this and whittle down. So why don't you continue to take a look at it and tell us what's restrictive? And Catherine's open to really anything. She'll do anything we ask. So let's start here and subtract. That's what I would propose.
Yeah, and I think we just need to work on it before we involve Catherine further.
Agreed. Let's not burn up the hourly. Agreed.
Can we circle back to see what we talked about back in, I think it was, a long time ago, back in November, October, when we had our closed door meeting to discuss the motion that was put on the table? Or am I, that's my,
I think that'll come out in the end.
okay, so that if, no matter what, if we change that, is that going to remove the police power ordinance in total? Or I guess that's my question, is how do we loop that back in, or is it gonna be looped in the end? And if that's the case, then
I think it gets looped in the end. I know in this Yankee Spring one, the zoning administrator has the authority to issue a stop work order if there's lack of compliance.
Okay, understood, thank you.
I
So,
apologize for my phone. I got a new one. I didn't want to shut it off. My kid keeps texting me.
so moving forward, next week, we are to come with what each individual wants to see taken out, and
Subtract. Let's subtract.
or,
Next
Mhm.
week? Not
or sorry, next meeting.
Thank you.
And
It's not that long.
it's not, it's really, when you look at it, yeah, it's a lot of pages, half the pages and double spaced, and it's not like it's a half an hour read. I think that we can all say, hey, challenge ourselves to an hour to 2 hours a week over the next 4 weeks, and let's,
Get out your red marker or your green highlighter, whatever.
let's get some movement on it.
Yeah. Okay.
Is that? Excuse me. having high hopes for myself. Is it something that if we get done before next meeting, like if, will we have something to ship it off to Catherine
For her review?
for her review
Well, we have to meet 1 month at a time. You mean prior to our meeting?
prior to our meeting? Can
Oh.
we, it's just as correspondence, or is she to be here?
I don't think we can do that. It's
Okay.
a lack of, we're not an open meeting.
Right.
We're violating the open meeting.
Okay, that's what
So,
I'm just.
good question, but.
Yeah, no,
Just to, you know.
I
like-
love the forward motion thinking, truly.
Right, you know, to speed it up to, hey, yeah, no, that's gotta stay in there, or yeah, I can change that, you know, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. We all can put on this. I'm glad, thank you guys for your thoughts on this. Okay, so that's it for our meeting. So at this time I would take public comment. John,
Yeah. I'll make a couple comments. Number one, I wanna compliment the planning commission on the work you did tonight. Having been in your position for a number of years, you're dealing with tough stuff. It's not easy. And you're trying to do things that are gonna benefit the residents of the township. Not individually, but the residents as a whole. And so, I think the back and forth passion you did was, I thought was very, very good. And you came up with some good, I think, final decisions. The other thing I would say is with the master plan, having gone through 2 of those, on the commission, it is a very important document. And it's something that you can then utilize as you develop ordinances. You go back to that master plan and say, does this fit? And if it doesn't, then that's an area that probably needs to be discussed for a future master plan, or find out more information in order to be able to do things that are relevant to what the residents at that time the master plan was put into place felt were important.
thank you. Marv, a final comment? Okay. Board, or excuse me, commission, anything from you?
Motion to adjourn.
I just, okay.
Beat you to it.
Okay.
Unless you guys something else?
No, I just wanna say thank you. I felt like it was a good conversation, there was a good back and forth, and I appreciate the working attitude that was present, and I'm grateful for that, so thanks everyone. So
Thank you for everything you do.
Yes.
June 9th will be our next meeting, so.
Perfect.
So, motion made, support by Richard. Motion adjourned. Excuse me, meeting adjourned.
Amount of water, you give me some.
I might get to miss the next meeting. That's 2 days before our anniversary. Usually are out of town.
What anniversary are we celebrating?
43, man.
Told my wife is.
You heard that old.
10 years on that. So I've been 10 years old when you got married.
Our deliberation, our